Don't forget to subscribe to our daily newsletter, VSiN City. It's the must-have for all sports betting enthusiasts. I say the perfect way to start your handicapping day. Makes you sort of look at the bets you're considering through a different lens, and that is always a good thing, whether or not you choose to go with the information in there or not. And for a limited time only, sign up at vsin.com/subscribe. Earn a chance to receive a free entry to this here Westgate Las Vegas SuperContest, the ultimate football handicapping challenge worth $1,500. VSiN's newsletter, sponsored by footballcontest.com, your most trusted proxy service and source for information on Las Vegas football contests. Gill Alexander, a numbers game here at VSiN, the Vegas Stats and Information Network. And one of the great things about broadcasting live here from the Westgate during SuperContest weekend is that we get to talk to past winners of this prestigious, the most prestigious contest, handicapping contest in Las Vegas. Jay Cornegay and crew, Jeff Sherman, Ed Salmons, everybody here at the Westgate deserves so much credit. And one of the gentlemen who has won a super contest and did so in 2011 and is also a sort of co-founder of this very weekend, it's our friend Brady Kannon. Hello, Brady.
How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing great.
We're not talking golf this time, I guess, not purely golf this time around.
Yeah, most numbers game listeners know you as our golf guy, which you are from Tee Times USA, for all your golf needs, by the way. But you won the Super Contest. You were a team of 4 in 2011, the Souci team, and we're going to get into that in a moment, Souci, because it was a fascinating approach you guys took. But when you won it, the next year, you and Jay Cornegay got together and sort of said, why don't we celebrate this with a weekend?
Yeah, absolutely. It wasn't long after that we had won the contest, I want to say maybe a month following the fact, that I started direct messaging on Twitter with Jay and had some text messages and just, video or, via the phone conversation. Nothing live at this point. Mm-hmm. And just threw out the idea of, first it started on my end with a golf tournament. I said, Jay, we should get maybe past winners together and top 20 finishers. And I was trying to think, who could we put together in terms of super contest participants where we could assemble 100 or so people for a golf tournament. And I said we should have a celebratory thing, a golf tournament before the football season starts, and I said in addition to that we can kind of get people enthused about the season starting and the contest kicking off, and we can create a whole weekend and we can bring people into your hotel and yada yada yada. And then Jay kind of liked the sound of it, and then he really picked up that ball and ran with the whole handicapping seminar side of things, and that's where it came about, and here we are 6 years later, and Brent Musburger and company are broadcasting nationally. It's come a long way. Pretty cool.
It really has. And Brent Musburger, of course, will be here live at the Westgate. For those who might be in the area, he'll be here at 3 p.m. Pacific, hanging out right here on set, live from the Westgate. So we look forward to that. Back in 2011, so at that point in the Super Contest history, typically a winner would hit on about 65%. And again, this is a weekly contest for those who don't know. 5 games, that's what you pick. That's all. 5 against the spread. There's no totals, just 5 games against the spread, given the static lines that the Westgate puts out on the Wednesday prior to those games. And 65% was usually what won it. You got together with 3 of your friends, Robert Oseland, James Gallo, and Paul Caruso, the 4 of you. And had you entered the Super Contest before that year?
I had. I actually won the mini contest with a different group of guys many years prior to that. I think this year will be about my 12th year playing in the contest.
Wow.
And, of course, the big win was 6 years ago, so I think I had played about 5 or 6 years prior to that. And originally it was with 5 guys, and we just used to do 1 pick a piece, and we actually won the mini contest about our 3rd or 4th year in, and went through a couple of more years. And that's when I was really starting to get more into the handicapping and all of that type of thing. And I kind of started looking around at my teammates, and I said, you know what, I think I'm ready to upgrade. And I want to get guys like Osland and Gallo and Caruso who really know what they're doing here. Rob has been in the casino business in town for many, many years, worked with Johnny Avello at Wynn, and is very sharp from that standpoint. Paul Caruso is a bail bondsman guy in town and just really good at picking football games. And the same with Jimmy. Both Paul and Jim are native Las Vegans, so they're very knowledgeable about the point spread and whatnot, like some people that haven't been here all their lives are not. So I felt we had a good mix of guys together, and I told my old team, I said, I'm gonna do this new team, and we picked up a fifth guy. Our fifth guy actually rotated for a couple years, and a guy that we were going to try and grab on the show today, Bill Berghoff. His family is famous in Chicago with the Berghoff restaurant, and Bill played with us in 2010. He was our fifth member.
Oh, Bill.
Yeah,
I know what happens here.
Yeah, and we didn't do that great. We hit around 50% or something like that, and so it was right about this time in 2011 when I said to Bill, are you ready to, take another shot with us this year? And he goes, yeah, you know what, Brady, I think I'm going to hold off.
Oh, no.
And, he forever has been the fifth Souci. So.
Yes, the fifth Beatle. Souci, without worry, translation from French. How'd you get that name?
Great question. Especially Osland and Gallo and myself are all big music fans, and especially Grateful Dead fans. And Jerry Garcia has a place, had a place. It still exists, and you can rent it out for weekends or something like that. But one of the homes that he lived in for many years was up in Stinson Beach in Marin County. You're familiar, of course, with the area.
Yep.
And Peter Rowan tells a story at the beginning of one of his albums, how there was a little sign above the door that said "Sans souci," meaning no problem. And so I thought that was apropos for a number of reasons, but that we could, first and foremost, go win the contest, no problem.
You did, no problem. Talking to Brady Kannon, one of the four remaining members of the Sans Souci team that won the SuperContest. At the time, the Hilton SuperContest.
Correct, the last Hilton winner, by the way.
You can always say that. I was a Hilton SuperContest winner, then it became the LVH and now the Westgate.
Right.
Here that we are broadcasting live from today. When I mentioned before 2011, 65% roughly when the rate that folks would win the SuperContest. Not only did you win it, but as you say, you really did win it with no worry. You guys ended up, and it's, again, 5 picks through a 17-week season, so it's 85 total picks. You went 58, 22, and 5 against the spread. That's a 71.2% clip. That became, at the time, the record for the greatest SuperContest season ever.
I don't know if anybody had ever even hit 70% before.
They had not. That was the first, and in fact, right now, still to this day, you're tied for the second greatest record of all time. The number one goes to the 2014 contest winners, CH Ballers.
And they crushed it, like 76%.
76%, which speaks to the fact that the SuperContest Classic, it is so big that just by math now, you would think someone is randomly going to get to 70, but that didn't happen last year.
Right, last year was a down year, if you will. What was it, about 64% or so?
64, 65 again, yeah.
And, that's always a goal that you have to have, whether you're playing in the contest or just handicapping games. If you can get to 60%, that's a fantastic season. If you can get to 64 or 65, that's a Hall of Fame season.
Yeah.
And that's where you really have to set your sights to succeed in the SuperContest these days, is really above 60%.
So this is I think the fascinating part for anybody who's considering entering the SuperContest here at the Westgate, whether it's the $1,500 entry or SuperContest Gold 5,000. First of all, are you sticking with SuperContest Classic 1,500?
I am. First of all, the gold is a little rich for my blood, but I'm also not ready to compete and finish in second, and see it all go away. And I'm sure there's some mathematicians out there that can tell me my odds are better of getting into that contest. But now with all the different payouts in the SuperContest Classic, maybe that's not as true anymore, or the thinking may be off there.
It's an interesting choice to make for people who are considering entering and they're not sure which one to enter if they're deciding between the two, because as you say, the 1,500, many winners, people get in the money, but the $5,000 is winner take all. Now, here's the thing, and we asked Jake Cornegay earlier, Mitch and Paulie did on Follow the Money, and this is probably the single most important question of the weekend, and I'll have Jake Cornegay on a numbers game tomorrow at 1 o'clock Pacific. How many entries thus far in SuperContest Gold? And the answer currently, with a few weeks here left before the NFL season begins, and so more will come, but right now it's 23.
Wow.
So the answer to your question right now is it probably is better to do the $5,000.
Correct. You also have to figure between now and roughly Labor Day, that number could double.
Yes.
So you're probably going to be competing against around 50 people.
I think that's right.
Also, you probably have received an update from Jay, but we had him on a show last night, and he told us somewhere in the neighborhood of like 864 entries to this point, 60% ahead of schedule from last year.
60% ahead of schedule.
Incredible.
Usually he's about 20% ahead of schedule around this time. 60%, and that is fueled, for those who didn't hear it earlier, by the fact that 400 of those currently that have entered into the $1,500 one, brand new entrants. Have never entered before.
That's great.
If that's
and
happening,
you guys deserve a lot of credit for that.
To whatever extent we do, then we've done our job. But it is a great thing because all year long, Tuesdays, we will be the first ones at VSiN to announce the current standings. Wednesdays during the football season, we'll be the first to announce the lines that people will pick into. And then Saturdays, we'll be the ones here at VSiN, the Vegas Stats and Information Network, to give the consensus picks. And the consensus picks are interesting.
I like that. Yeah, they are.
Yeah.
So I think it was last year that for the first half of the season, you really could have gone against the consensus picks and made a lot of money.
Yeah.
They were off to a horrible start.
Well, I was saying before with Chrissy, I was like, most people say go against the consensus picks, and that'll serve you pretty well. But not all consensus picks. There's a way to do it, otherwise where that can be used, otherwise perhaps to your benefit to go with them. But that's a subset of that.
And following up on your point there about your coverage of the Super Contest that you will continue to do throughout the season, it was during our PGA Championship discussion that I mentioned you are the audio home of the Super Contest,
we are
right?
The audio home
the audio
of the Super
home.
Contest.
There
That's what
we
we should say. We should just say the Vegas Stats and Information Network, the audio home of the Super Contest. Don't go anywhere because I want to talk to you about that 2011 run. Again, you went 58, 22, and 5 for at the time was a record 71.2% clip. Brady and his team of three other teammates won $320,200, which was a high at that time. Last year's winner won $900,000+, as did James Salinas back in 2015. It looks like the winner's going to win $1 million this year.
I think we're headed there.
I want to get your approach, though, because I think the team approach is particularly informative for listeners, folks who are planning on entering the contest, whether Classic or Gold. It's a fascinating way they did this. More with Brady Kannon, member of the 2011 Souci Super Contest winners, on a numbers game at VSiN on the way. I'm going to go about minus 900 that when Brent Musburger gets on the air here at 3 p.m., that his first words are going to be, "You are looking live at the Westgate."
That is a great call there, and I'm not going to bet against it.
No, I don't think so. By the way, updating that baseball game, the one game that we have been tracking, and I don't know if you heard about this, Brady.
The
Cubs,
over.
Yes. Well, the over is long gone. Yes, for sure. Unless there's a windstorm or something that stops this game.
Well, that's what I heard about this game, that it's the most wind that I know some of my local Chicago buddies have seen out of Wrigley in a long time.
Yeah, unless there's a natural event, I should say, that stops this game here before we get to the ninth. For those who are wondering what we're talking about, the Reds put up a 9 spot on John Lester and the Cubs. Not all runs charged to Lester, 7 of them earned, but 9 spot on the Cubs in the second inning. Took a 9-0 lead over the Cubbies at Wrigley, and you figured, well, this one's over. The Reds, as a plus 220 dog, are just going to coast to victory. Well, the Cubs came all the way back, tied them up in the bottom of the 5th, 9-9, and now the Reds in the top of the 7th with a 2-run shot.
Wow.
Irvin off Justin Grimm.
And I believe the total in this game was all the way up to 12.
Yeah, well, we're at 20 now.
Yeah.
In the top of the 7th.
The Windy City, baby.
Reds up on the Cubbies, 11-9. We're here with Brady Kannon, one of the 4 winning members of the Souci team that won the 2011 Super Contest, as we broadcast live from the Westgate here in Las Vegas, the beautiful Superbook here at the Westgate. And I want to give a shout-out, Brady. He's not able to join us on set, but Dave Tooley, who worked at ESPN and still does for so many years, covered this contest like no other. He wrote great pieces about your win back then, for instance. Dave deserves a lot of credit for chronicling this event through the years.
Absolutely, and Jay Cornegay will tell you that Dave is really the go-to guy if you're looking for history on the Super Contest. He has covered it. I don't know if he goes all the way back to the very beginning, but he goes as far back as anybody that I know Jay knows, and that means that I know. So, if you're looking for, and it would be good for you this weekend or next year or whatever. Dave is a great historian as far as looking back at some of the facts and the progression of this contest.
Yes. We would love to have Dave on whenever he can. So back to 2011. You guys, Souci team, it's you, Rob Oslin, James Gallo, Paul Caruso, a fifth Souci member who decided to depart just prior to the 2011 season. You go 58, 22, and 5, which at the time was a record 71.2% clip. Now, I think what you did more than anything for me at that time was you put it in my brain, maybe the way to play this is in a group setting. How did you guys approach it on a week-to-week basis?
Yeah, and I've been asked that many times, and I think there's two different schools of thought here. I know I'm a good handicapper, so I want to enter this contest by myself. I want to have control over who I'm picking, yada yada yada. And then you have the group setting, and this really worked for us. Is the four of us all have different styles of handicapping.
That is what I was getting at.
That's the deal.
That's the beauty of it.
Exactly. And if you are going to go solo, I think you have to address that you can't just, let's say you're a guy who always likes to play underdogs, or you're a guy who always likes to make a system play, or you're a guy who likes to play trends or situations, or you're a number cruncher, or whatever it is. Or you typically play favorites or public or sharp, or whatever your style is. That style doesn't win 100% of the time.
Sure doesn't.
Okay, we all know that.
Yeah.
So
last year being a great example, right, where favorites just came in and over week after week, bookmakers were getting crushed.
Right.
That's an anomaly kind of year.
Sure.
And so a certain type of handicapper would have gotten destroyed last year if they're not doing that.
Yeah, if you were just playing dogs,
right,
or what have you. So I think if you are going into the contest solo, you have to think about making some plays that are not necessarily, that are a little bit off of your norm. And that's where, we had the perfect storm in our year. I typically do like to play underdogs. Paul Caruso plays almost nothing but favorites. And Rob Osland, as I mentioned, has that casino background, so he was very much, the mentality of the house. And Jim Gallo was a little bit all of the above. And
that's awesome.
Yeah, and so everybody obviously had great years, but when you have to employ different styles, I guess, because let's say if I'm the underdog player, I wasn't going to hit 72% by myself because some favorites came in from Paul, some casino plays came in from Rob, some mixed bag plays came in from Jim, and it came together to amount to 70-some%.
So how does that go? So every week there's a schedule of games. SuperContest puts out the lines on Wednesday, and we'll be the ones to announce them first at VSiN this year, every Wednesday. We're thrilled about that. So you guys go into your own corners, I guess, so to speak?
Yes, we really do, and we had a system, and we still have rules. You aren't allowed to pick a Thursday game. You aren't allowed to pick a London game. You aren't allowed to lose two games if you're the deuce. So there's
the deuce, meaning that one of you four guys was randomly in a sort of rotation, got to pick two games that week.
Exactly. We used to have 5, and it was real simple. One guy made, each guy made one pick. When we went down to 4, when we lost the 5th Souci, we said, okay, we're each going to make one pick, and then one guy will be the deuce each week, and the deuce will rotate.
Did the deuce ever lose 2 that year?
No. The deuce never lost 2.
If the deuce had lost 2, what would you have done to him?
We just tell him that he broke a rule.
And you're never allowed to be the deuce again.
Dude, you broke a rule.
That's it.
Come
You're
on.
never the deuce again.
You know the rules, pal. Yeah. I mean, if you're the deuce, you can't lose 2. Got to at least go 1-1.
Did you ever have duplication?
Yes, we did. It's kind of like you come, okay, so Wednesday the lines come out, Thursday maybe you're sending a few texts, and then by the time Friday rolls around, maybe you're actually going to a full-fledged phone call and discussing 2 or 3 plays with a guy, and everybody's got maybe their top 1 or 2 picks, sometimes 3. And I remember I would speak with Rob and Paul quite a bit. Each of us almost had our go-to shoulder to lean on.
Yes.
And we didn't always talk with one another in full. I would typically talk with Rob and Paul. Jim would talk with Paul. It wasn't necessarily a round table at all times. and we'd say, well, I like that one and this and that and the other, and eventually, obviously, we would come up with our 5 picks, and we had a batting order even. Paul was our leadoff hitter, Rob is our scrappy number 2 hitter, I'm in the 3-hole, and Jim was the cleanup hitter. We even had the whole baseball parlance, around it.
And then the next week, the second person would start the third. Is that what you mean?
Well, Paul, as the leadoff hitter, started as the deuce.
I see.
And
the deuce would rotate.
And then the deuce went to
Gotcha.
the number 2 hitter, and 3 and 4, and then back around to the top again.
We're talking to Brady Kannon, one of the 4 members of the Souci winning SuperContest team back in 2011, which is noteworthy for those who are like, well, why you got the guy from 2011? Well, at that time, they had the greatest percentage in SuperContest history, and to this day, tied for the second greatest percentage in SuperContest history. It bears noting that the number 1 team, in terms of percentage of history all time, greatest percentage that is in the SuperContest, CH Ballers 2014, also a group endeavor. So,
and also a 4, right?
And also a 4.
Yeah.
Correct. Also 4. And both of you guys, CH Ballers and Souci, kind enough to come on my podcast through the years. What we're trying to highlight here at VSiN is some of the great past winners. You mentioned you never did a Thursday game. Why?
Because you don't have as much time to turn your picks in.
And you would have to turn in all 5 by then.
Exactly. If you're going to select a Thursday game, you have to submit your entire card. Mm-hmm. And then you miss out on Friday, you miss out on the rest of Thursday evening's information. You miss out on the entire Friday's worth of information, and you miss out on Saturday morning's worth of information. So we just felt it was better to go ahead and sidestep that, and obviously it worked, and we still maintain that rule.
Yeah.
It's just hard to have all your ducks in a row by the time it's ready to kick off on Thursday night and turn in your card. And then the London, was
the travel.
Yeah, the other rule, it's very random. The London games, it's really hard to get a handle. I mean, it's hard enough to pick a game normally, and then you throw London into the mix, and it's like, okay, guys, let's just avoid London.
Let's avoid. This is hard enough as it is.
Right.
Let's not make it any harder. But it is interesting that you highlight it's an information gathering thing for you. That was your approach, and the reason you don't pick a Thursday game is it gives you that much more time to pick up on information. I should note, CH Ballers, number 1 of all time. You guys tied for number 2. James Salinas, who won it in 2015, who, and I say this with the utmost respect. I was trying to get James on, but James is only arriving 3 p.m. tomorrow, so I'm going to miss him. Hopefully Brent or Mitch and Paulie will have him on. He was a solo act, and
yes.
He is a freak, and I mean that in the best way, but he is all about, he's not a numbers guy, he is all about information gathering, and he is so immersed in it, so he has that in common with you. It was really about, what can I learn on Friday? What can I learn on Saturday? Another guy who never picked a Thursday game.
And isn't he rounding again on Twitter?
He is rounding again on Twitter. Yes.
And not only did he win, I believe it was last year, he finished 3rd.
He finished 3rd last year. He also won, by the way, our VSiN Beat the Spread Challenge for March Madness. So hopefully he'll be on the air this weekend. He's unbelievable, but that's the kind of competition you're up against. One last thing before we go. That year that you won, did you ever have a week that you were below 3-2?
Yes, and that's great that you asked that question, because it goes back to Dave Tooley, and that's another term we have coined.
That's right.
The Tooley curse.
The Tooley curse.
The Tooley curse. He
right.
wants to, I maintained the entire time. I remember week 1 we went 5-0, and I took a picture of the computer screen, when the standings come out on Tuesday, and I said, "Look at this, honey. We're in first place of the Hilton contest. This will never happen again." Laughed, and pretty soon, 3 or 4 weeks go by, we went 5-0 again in week number 3, and then Dave Tooley starts knocking on my door, and I always maintained I never wanted to say my name. I never wanted to let anybody know, one word, Twitter, what have you, until it was all done. I wasn't going to pop off until it was over. So Tooley interviewed us in week 6, and we did not give out any of our names or anything, it was the very next week that we went 1-4, and that was our worst week, the Tooley curse, of course. But no, just that one bad week.
Appreciate you stopping by, Brady.
Thank you.
Souci, the winning team back in 2011. Brady Kannon, always a friend of VSiN. We appreciate it, man. All the insight. A lot to learn there for those who want to enter SuperContest Gold or SuperContest Classic as we broadcast live from the Westgate. It's the Vegas Stats and Information Network. Back with Andreas Hale next.
This is a numbers game with Gill Alexander on Sirius XM 204.